My name is IBRAHIM MAHAMA. I'm a visual artist from Ghana. I live in Tamale, in the northern parts of the country. For the last couple of years, I've basically been very much interested in the history of objects and aesthetics in relation to the history of Ghana. So I've collected various objects from around the country, from jute sacks, which are used generally to transport commodities around the world. I'm also interested in collecting objects like parts of old buildings, furniture that was used in the early 20th century, or antiquities, materials that have been exhumed. I'm also been interested in exhuming old sites, for instance, cemeteries or old buildings that were built either in the modernist era, and trying to find ways in which we can transform these sites towards certain cultural premises in a way. For me, it's one of the most important works in the show. Yeah. Because of the color of the wood and everything, I felt that it was really important because realize that these ones they're painted. I think my most interest has also been about this idea of a material transformation. Like, how are we able to use materials that seem to be at the end of their life cycle, but somehow through art we can bring them back to life by repositioning them through, let's say, certain labor forms. This is made in the same era as the furniture. Yeah. So now, if you want to make the jalousie, if you compare this design in terms of the craftsmanship to the production of these works in terms of the craftsmanship, they're on very different levels. Yeah, those days. The intention of the exhibition, it's an exhibition first and foremost, it's a visual one, but also I wanted to introduce an element of sound into it in the form of music, somehow interested in the connection between the furniture and the sounds that are produced from these vinyls. So a lot of the vinyls are high life music, and of course we know how high life contributed significantly to the shift in culture and all that's within West Africa. So I'm very much interested in how people are able to reconnect, because the textile pieces are also very much connected to the culture at the time, and also even now. But there's something really interesting about playing music, not from an MP3, but from a vinyl, something that seems so fragile, something that seems to have faded away. But also because a lot of the playlists that I've selected to be in the exhibition from the vinyls are artists that most people did not even know that existed. So it's also thinking retrospectively and also thinking about how their contributions towards, let's say, the shift in culture, or even how some of these musical forms and contributions also contributed towards, let's say, textiles. So, of course, I'm not trying to produce a body of work that somehow produces a literal history or conversation, but just to be able to produce an experience in a form of collecting all these different materials from different histories together that allows us to be able to build new narratives and conversations within our minds. You can realize that there are two components of the wax in the exhibition. There is one part which is made up of different types of wax in the same frame, and there is also one which is just one, the same color. And color is something that has also been very much important to me for many years also, with regards to how an artist is able to negotiate himself or him or herself with color. So some of it, I take the same color, but in a very slight variation in the case of the doors. So you realize that there are two shades of the same color, pink, and then they just vary. So when you look at it, it almost looks like it creates some kind of an illusion with your eye, but there are two different colors in combination with the wood. And the wood is not painted as compared to the other ones that are painted, because those ones are the ones that were coming from the early 20th century, whereas this one is coming from the 21st century. So I'm also very much interested in the relationship between the wask and then also the materials that frame them within that sense. I like this idea that the exhibition is almost like a house which has been deconstructed. And then there are components of it in terms of the wardrobe, which has like clothing in it, or the doors from the house, and everything has somehow been merged together. So you find that there is a wask which is within the frame of the door, the wask which is within the seating of the furniture. So I'm also very much interested in how all the components within the exhibition are creating new relationships with other components within the context of this body of work. The jute sacks was one of the signature materials I was using as a young artist. I started collecting them in 2011 when I was traveling between Ghana, Burkina Faso, and doing research. And I was mainly interested in them because they had been used for once transporting cocoa, and then later on used for transporting ordinary commodities like charcoal, maize, and other things. But I was more or less also again interested in the memories that had been, traces of memories that had been left within them in the forms of scars and patines and all kinds of other things. And thinking about the politics that was embedded within these aesthetics, simple aesthetics that we took for granted. I think in 2019 or 18, I think 19, I was invited to present a work at the UN in New York, and the proposal was to replace the flags at the UN, the countries at the flag with the UN. So I made this series of works that the flags come from. So instead of making a flag that has the representation of the countries, nationalities, I decided to take the commodities that are used for intercontinental and global trade, and then to make them into these flags, which present these new forms of aesthetics. Whereas in this case, we're more interested in when you confront the flag, it's more or less about the residues that have come through as a result of like the global transactions that we have. But yet again, the flags always creates this kind of moments of sovereignty, which we always think that, oh, we are in our own little country and our own bubble, so we don't need another person. Whereas the flag with the jute sacks is a reminder of how much the world is connected, because we consume things that are produced elsewhere and they travel all around the world. So it was more or less, for me, I thought I did it in a very playful sense. I borrowed the title from Aminata Fona's book, The Memory of Love. For me, the materials in themselves held the memory of love just within themselves. So it was quite literal in my head. And when I was looking at finding a title for the exhibition, I thought The Memory of Love was actually quite interesting to be able to articulate the processes and my relationship to the various materials which have come together to form the foundation of this show.
Hey, babe.